Good afternoon, learners. Welcome back to our entrepreneurship lesson. While we're still waiting for others to join, may you please mute yourselves, guys? Thank you very much. While we are still waiting for others to join, we can start, I guess, because time is not on our side. My name is Monica, as you know already, your favorite teacher. Welcome to our entrepreneurship lesson. Okay, can you guys see my screen?
No, ma'am.
No, ma'am.
Just a moment. My apology. Share screen. How about now?
Yes, we can see it.
Thank you very much. Okay, today's lesson, we are still on communication. So today we are going to discuss the types of communication. In our previous lesson, we defined communication. So today we are going to look at the types of communication. So after this lesson, you will be able to identify, evaluate the advantages and disadvantages of each type of communication. Okay. Just a moment. Taking you back to our previous lesson, we defined communication. We say that it's a form of transferring information from one person to another. This can be done via pictures, audios, videos, emails, and even feelings. How you feel, showing your feelings to someone is also a form of communication. So now that we all understand what communication is, can we move on to the types of communication? Or is there anyone with a question that perhaps does not understand what communication is? Anyone with a question, or may I proceed? Lenas, can you hear me?
Proceed, ma'am.
Thank you very much.
Yes, you can proceed.
Thank you. Types of communication. When we say types of communication, we mean the way people communicate, like how they communicate. Let's start with oral communication. What do we mean by oral communication? Okay, this refers to talking through mouth. It's when one is conversating with another person, like orally, like now what we are doing, we are orally communicating. It can be either face-to-face, telephonically, or presentation, like what we are doing now. So oral communication does have advantages and disadvantages. Let's look at the advantages of oral communication. It gives a high level of understanding. It is fast, and discussions are quick. It is fast, and discussions can be done without delays. Not always, but most of the time. It is cheap, and no much effort is really needed. It is considered to be best use of transfer in terms of your private and confidential information. For instance, maybe you have a certain problem and you would like to see a therapist or a counselor. It is best advised you visit them face-to-face and you communicate orally. However, oral communication also has disadvantages. Disadvantages, we can look at it. It has chances of misunderstandings. Some information might not be understood by everyone. For instance, if one is using high vocabulary, not everyone will be able to understand some of the words. A long presentation may bore audience. If you have a long presentation, like for hours, people they'll get tired and lose interest in listening to you. Information shared orally can be forgotten easily. For instance, if I ask you what we discussed today, if I ask you tomorrow what we discussed now, you might not be able to tell me all the information. In terms of businesses, communication cannot only rely on oral communication. You should employ other forms of communication, which we'll also look at them. And in many cases, it becomes impossible for everyone to attend a meeting at the same time. Okay, we have looked at the advantages and disadvantages of oral communication. Now we're moving on to the next type of communication, which is written communication. By the display of the image, maybe you might already have an idea what written communication is. Okay, written communication is a process of conveying information into a written symbol or word. Communication is a most effective mode. The written communication is the most effective mode for business, especially for business communication and also educational communication. When we talk about written communication, here we have email, text messages, our WhatsApps, letters, written posters, reports, etc. Going to the advantages of written communication, letters or written communication can be kept as a record. For instance, if I send you an email, you are able to save it and use it for future uses. It saves money and time. For instance, if one has to travel just to attend a meeting, it will save your time and also your money. You do not need to travel. You can get the information via email or whatsoever. They can be retained for purposes for further references. That is more similar to you keep it for record. Written communication can be delivered to far places. I can communicate with people who are abroad, which is really good and easier for everyone to share information. Written communication reaches a large number of audience. For instance, our Google information and whatsoever, anyone has access to them to search information. And we also have disadvantages for written communication, which is it's also expensive in terms of buying stationery. You have to buy a pen. For instance, you want to write a letter, you have to buy a pen, a paper. You should have money to post to courier it to wherever you want it to go, and so on. It is time consuming in terms of typing. When I was preparing this presentation, it took me time, but had it been oral communication, it would have been easier. Time saves time. Feedback, you do not get feedback immediately, and it does not provide room for correction. If I send you a letter and it reaches you, you are somewhere very far, and I realize later I made a mistake, it will be difficult for me to correct it. Okay, that's the end of our written communication. So now we're moving on to the last one, which is oral communication. Are you there, Lenus?
Yes, we are listening.
Thank you.
Yes, we are with you, ma'am.
Thank you. We have nonverbal communication. When we talk about nonverbal communication, this is a way of sending or receiving information without exchanging any word. It's a silent form of communication. So this we mean by sign language, such as hands, eyes, mouth. We have gesture, waving at someone, pointing fingers, clapping hands, and so on. Well, nonverbal communication can also be in a form of images, posters. Like by the image that I've put here, by looking at it, let me say you couldn't read or something, you'll be able to tell the type of faces displayed here, isn't it? Are you
Yes,
guys
ma'am.
ready? Thank you. Okay, let's go to the advantages of nonverbal communication. It expresses feelings.
Miss,
Yes.
can I add?
Yes.
So non-verbal is like people with disabilities that cannot speak.
Yes, correct. That is the form
Is that
of
also
communication they use.
okay?
Yes, but you that speak can also use, let me say, whenever you are communicating, in your communication, there's also nonverbal communication displayed. How you move your hands, your facial expression, that's also a nonverbal communication. You can be speaking orally and yet at the same time. Yes. Thank you. Let's go to the advantages. They express feelings. By looking at someone, even without saying any word, you'll be able to tell how the person is feeling, either happy, sad, and so on. It attracts attention. Like the pictures, I'm sure the pictures that I've also inserted here have attract your attention. And we have graphs that
And body language?
Come again?
Body language, ma'am, is that a form of non-communication?
Yes, correct. That is a form of non-verbal communication, body language.
Okay.
Yes, okay, we continue with the disadvantages. I said it attracts attention. They are very useful for illiterate people, like people who cannot talk or read, like Annette said, people with disabilities. Yes, it reduces wastage of time. Moving on to the disadvantages, here we have message conveyed might be difficult to understand. Like if a person comes, the people who cannot talk or speak, if they come doing their body language sign, not everyone will be able to understand their message. It might not display all information. Information on a poster or maybe a graph might not give all the information needed. And some body languages vary among different cultures. Like, for instance, we have, let me say in Shuam or something, when you clap your hands, you show appreciation or something. But in Caprivians, with Caprivians, clapping hands, it's when you are greeting an elderly or something like that. So the body language differ among different cultures. So clarification of information are not possible, like to clarify, to give more details of a certain information with nonverbal communication, it's limited. Okay, that brought us to the end of our lesson. We've looked at the type of communication, which are nonverbal, oral, and written communication. Communication is important, and we need it in our everyday life. We learn and we teach through communication. Does anyone have any questions before I proceed?